Taking my time to perfect the beat, and I still got love for the streets. Don't represent for the gangsters all across the world. Hitting corners in the love world. Taking my time to perfect the beat, and I still got love for the streets. Don't represent for the gangsters all across the world. Hitting corners in the love world. Taking my time to perfect the beat, and I still got love for the streets. Don't represent for the gangsters all across the world.
Hoppy is representing for the gangsters all across the world, all the degens, all the humans, all of us. Thank you all for tuning in. Good evening. I'm Leslie Mota. Welcome to the Nightly Recap, powered by Gokhshtein News Network and sponsored by Hoppy. Gokhshtein News Network, your trusted source for politics, crypto, and everything in between that makes you question reality and sometimes your sanity. Tonight, we're starting off with a little game, Truth or Dare. Degeneration edition, because we're all degenerates, right? No filters, no rules, just freaky stuff that makes you feel something down low. Get your hands out of your pants, you little pervs. JK. So, ready to lose a little control, chat? You guys are going to be playing this with me, so I want to see all of your responses in the chat. Okay, tell me if you guys want me to do a truth or dare. Put in the chat, do we want truth or do we want dare? What's wrong with you guys? Wake your asses up. It's Thirsty Thursday. Thirsty Thursday. I'm kidding, guys. My intern wants me to play truth or dare. I don't want to play, but dare. Truth? Oh, I forget there's a delay. I have to be patient, right? I mean, I forget patience. Patience. Okay, so we have more truths. We have dare. Oh my goodness. I can't do truth, guys. I could not do truth. Truth is telling me to share your most secret desire and a favorite position. I guess my favorite position right now would be content creator. And a secret desire right now, I'm just craving some cheesecake. Yep. Guys, tonight is going to be an amazing show. I got some stuff for you guys a little bit later on. We're going to go off the handle tonight. We have nobody to monitor us. We're going to lose a little bit control. It's just going to be me by myself with you, chat. So stay tuned. So let's go ahead and get started with the news because I'm most excited for the second part of tonight's recap. We have a new segment for today. I am going to be introducing this new segment, and chat, once we're done, I need you guys to tell us if you guys like the first segment, which the first segment is written by the intern. The second segment, I'm not going to tell you guys yet who it was written by, but it's going to be very, very exciting. Hi, Mar. Let me tell you hi before you get your panties all bunched up your butt. But hello. I also want to apologize to everybody because moving forward, David will no longer be drinking any type of water during any of his lives now. Monday, we had a little going back and forth, and I may have ruined it for every. Nope. Okay, I told David to choke on it. Or no, wait, yeah, choke on it, and then he held it in his mouth for a little bit, and then I told him to swallow it. And up to this day, nobody knows if he either swallowed or spit it out. No, I can't get Starlink. I mean, the company won't buy me Starlink. Am I frozen? There we go. Yeah. I mean, if you guys want me to get Starlink, better internet service, you guys have to create a petition and you guys have to ask David for that. So at this point, it's all up to David and David's decision if we are going to be getting Starlink for the whole staff. Anywho, let's go ahead and get started with the news because I'm excited to move into the second segment of the show. U.S. arrests 130 individuals. The United States has arrested 130 Iranian nationals in the past 7 days for being in the country illegally. Thank goodness. Crazy thing is that numerous times were, I'm going to say, Langley Landy, myself, and Hotep were talking about sleeper cells within the United States. Nobody believed us. Nobody believed us. They said that we were fear mongering, all this bullshit, and now y'all believe it. Now that the White House published it, FBI published it, now you guys are going to believe us. Now it's okay to talk about it. Whatever. Canada gets suspicious. Canada launches investigation into how dozens of suspected Iranian officials have been allowed to enter Canada. How do you think? The same way they got into the United States of America. Hello. Trump takes shots at Powell. President Trump says Fed Chair Jerome Powell is a very stupid person. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Trying to mimic Trump's voice. Trump is so funny. Powell eyes cuts. Jerome Powell says at some point we'll resume rate cuts. I think at this point, Powell is really, really trolling Trump. He's not going to cut any rates. I think he's just trying to piss him off to see how far he can poke the bear. But what he doesn't understand with Trump, he eventually is going to FAFO. Can't say any bad words today. I got fined for saying bad words on Monday. David was being ridiculous. But anywho. Tammy Boo, I love you, girl. Tammy, oh my gosh, are two of the women that work at G Media that are Republican, and we love Trump. We voted for Trump. David is a freaking Democrat because he wears a lot of blue. Anywho, stable coins in the spotlight. Why is this thing? Oh, something was looking at me. Stablecoins in the spotlight. Fed Chair Jerome Powell says stablecoins have evolved and are now part of the financial system. Bro, at this point, STFU. Trump ICE replacement. President Trump claims he has started interviewing candidates to replace Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Wait. Oh my guys. Okay, I have to take a few minutes and pause because this is ridiculous and asinine bullshit lie. Lies from one of our staff members on the G Media team that is trying to take credit. I need my people who are on the staff. Tammy Langley Landy. You know what Langley Landy means? We're going to get crazy. When did David ever talk about the sleeper cells? When did sleeper cells, Iranian sleeper cells, or the freaking United States of America, the government publishing them on their websites? When did David ever speak about sleeper cells? The thing is, David hears something coming out of our mouth, he mutes us, and then he wants to take credit the next day when he talks about it on his spaces or in his live. Like he was the one that did all the work. Now, all of a sudden, he talked about it and he's been talking about it. When, dude? When? Because I don't remember you talking about it ever, David. It was Landy, Hotep, and myself. And you kept muting us on your space. You were like, you guys are not going to come and talk about this bullshit, blah, 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 David. Why don't you go drink some more water? How about that, David? Why don't you go and slurp on more water? Anywho, let's continue with the news, guys. Thank you for tuning in and listening to me today and not David. Into the Fidelity future, 6 trillion asset manager Fidelity says Bitcoin and crypto continue to evolve. US doesn't have a sell button. A White House official says the US government has an accumulation plan to purchase Bitcoin. Does it really now? Crypto for mortgages. The director of federal housing has ordered preparations for businesses to begin counting cryptocurrency as an asset for mortgage consideration. About damn time. About damn time. Wait, Landy, what do you want me to read? David said he got a new mattress. David told Landy on a phone call today, they were on a phone call, that he got a new mattress imported from Iran and it was made with the highest quality of sleepers. That's a good one. Oh my God. David, you're such a freaking hater. I literally can pick your ass up and throw you across the room and punch you in the neck. No violence here. This is just figuratively speaking, guys. I do not endorse any violence, especially when it comes to a male hitting a female. SEC admits ETF fail. SEC Commissioner Hester Pierce acknowledges the agency's handling of Bitcoin exchange traded product was deeply flawed. Was it? Was it? Trump announces Pentagon briefing. President Trump says the Pentagon will hold a major news conference tomorrow at 8 a.m. EST. I wonder why. What could it be, people? What the hell is going on? What are they not telling us? Very interesting. But on that note, let's go to a quick commercial break and we will be right back.
It's all connected.
Welcome back, everybody, to the nightly recap. sponsored by Hoppy and powered by GNN. We are now going into the second half of this show. We have a new segment called Conspiracy Unsealed, where we will touch on some points of what is happening, what do we think is happening. So let's get right into it. Swallow as much water as you can, Landy, because this is going to be good. But don't share it with David because David might get choked up, spit it out. We still don't know if he swallows or spits. But anywho, while the world watches, Iran and Israel play tug of war over ceasefires and chaos. A rare US surveillance training aircraft quietly took off to Europe yesterday. But what if it's just not training? Tonight, we're diving a tiny bit into the TC 135W, the hidden world of electronic warfare, and why this flight might be the smoke before the fire and a much bigger geopolitical move. What do you guys think? What do you guys think, chat? Who knows here of this aircraft that flew out yesterday? What do you guys think? If you don't think, then I will help you think a little bit. So strap in, strap on, or put on whatever you like to put on because this isn't just about planes. It's about positioning power while no one's looking. So just days after a shaky ceasefire between Iran and Israel, one of the only two TC-135W aircraft in the entire United States Air Force fleet quietly departed from Portsmouth, heading for Europe at a cruising altitude of 38,000 feet. On paper, a training mission. Oh my God. Guys, I'm choking here. Is somebody trying to kill me? Oh my goodness, somebody is trying to kill me. See, they don't want me to tell you guys this stuff. They don't want me to tell you. I am on point to tell you guys something. Is this conspiracy have some truth to it that now all of a sudden mysteriously I am freaking choking? They're getting me, guys. What the F is happening? Okay, so let me go ahead and just tell you before I freaking choke and something happens to me on this life or they freaking shut us down. But just days after a shaky ceasefire between Iran and Israel, one of the only two TC 135W aircraft in the entire United States Air Force fleet quietly departed. And the TC 135W isn't just any aircraft, it's the trainer version of the RC 135W, the rivet joint, the U.S. most powerful airborne surveillance and signals intelligence platform. These aircraft intercept enemy communications, track military movements, and listen in where boots can't go. So why is a training platform flying across the Atlantic? Think about it, guys. Think about it. Remember, too, on Monday, I talked to you guys about EMP and possible EMP attacks. And David was acting goofy. David wouldn't let me talk. Come on, guys. EMP, it's even in Call of Duty 3. Even the kids are aware of it. And if you don't believe me, take a look at this clip.
Within the support strike package at 18 kills, you can unlock the EMP, which stands for Electromagnetic Pulse, which temporarily disables enemy electronics as well as knocking out all enemy air support.
What do you see what they're doing? Do you see what they're doing? Anywho, even Call of Duty, and for all of you that play Call of Duty, when they start drafting you guys, they're going to see who has the highest Call of Duty score, and that's how they're going to start drafting your assets forward. Anywho, let's get back to it. So I told you guys to think about it. Iran or Iran? Iran just flexed its missile capabilities. Israel's on edge. US assets are being repositioned globally. If you don't know, now you know. And while everyone's distracted by headlines, debates, and domestic noise such as riots, a low profile jet might be laying the groundwork for real time intelligence ops. Is this a prelude to Rivet joint deployment? A low key signal to NATO allies or adversaries? Or a covered recon mission disguised as training? You don't move a needle in a haystack aircraft like this unless something is coming or already happening. What do y'all think? You want the truth? It's in the air. Let's break it down. The flight that raised eyebrows. So, for the ones that are just joining us in, a TC 135W, one of only two in the United States Air Force, just left Portsmouth headed for Europe yesterday. On the surface, it's just a training mission. But this aircraft doesn't move often. And when it does, it's usually for something big. Big. How big, she said? Big. What is the TC 135W? If you don't know, it's a training version of the RC 135, the Rivet joint, America's elite airborne surveillance aircraft. Come on, think about it, people. The RC 135 intercepts electronic signals, tracks enemy movements, and listens to communications across thousands of miles. That means the TC 135W isn't just a classroom in the sky, it's a gateway into the world of real time intel. So, geopolitical timing is everything. This flight happened right after a fragile ceasefire between Iran and Israel. So, think about that. Iran has tested missiles, threatened retaliation, and moved military assets. Where? Do we know? Maybe, maybe not. Israel is rearming and watching, and the US is making quiet moves. So, why does this flight feel suspicious? Why would you send one of only two TC 135Ws across the ocean for training? Why now? Why Europe? The answer might be it's not training at all. Possible theories: forwarding stage for an RC 135W deployment. So, what if the TC is just a pawn? Live signal testing over NATO territory to prep for Eastern surveillance, a stealthy way to monitor activity without drawing RC 135 attention. So maybe that has been deployed. We don't even know because we were so distracted by the TC being deployed. NATO coordination for potential escalation monitoring. Who knows? Training equals cover story. The military often uses training as a front for intel gathering. Because didn't they send troops over to the Middle East like over a month ago and it was just repositioning themselves, training or what it was, and then look at what happened within the last week. So a TC 135W could quietly listen in, map frequencies, or prep infrastructure for a surge and Rivet joint ops. What this means for the bigger picture: when a plane like this moves, it's not random, guys. It may be the first domino in a wider operation tied to the Middle East tensions, or a signal to our allies and enemies that we are listening. So you're watching a chess piece move in real time while everyone else is still staring at the checkerboards. So just let's go into another bit of conspiracy theory. And I know some of you love conspiracy theory. David, shut your mouth. And Anybody is more than welcome to dial into the phone line and come and talk conspiracy theory with me. Anywho, so let's tap into this conspiracy theory. China, Russia. We're going to talk chess right now. So, China, Russia is the queen, the important piece of the game. The United States of America is versing them, but they will be the king for this example because the king can make any move on the board with no limitations on them. Well, China, Russia is, yeah, no limitation on them. Okay, so, but of course, you make your move, your opponent is also making theirs. So while you make your move, you're okay. Freaking, I need to stop reading the damn comments. You guys are freaking distracting me. Bad. Ah! Anime gang fan 342 tuning in from YouTube. Welcome. I think BB is probably going to go rogue. Who knows? I think it's just a game of chess at this point. So, you make a move, your opponent is going to make a move. You can make a passive or safe move with a pawn to see what your opponent does next. But in chess, you should always be looking for moves down the line. It's always important to be one step ahead. The USA might be trying to attempt this, but they're moving their pawns. So in this case, the training planes and everything else could be the pawns towards whatever they need to get to. So this allows the US to progress with pieces like the rook, knight, etc., and position them towards the opposing country's queen so that we get them in checkmate and they can do anything and they can't do anything because we are already there and positioned with our pieces before they even know it. So now the question becomes, is this just a training flight? Or is this the opening move in a much larger game? Because when the US quietly sends one of its rarest intel aircraft across the Atlantic, right as tensions flare in the Middle East, you have to ask, is this game of chess or the calm before checkmate? Stay alert, stay curious, and remember, the real moves never make headlines. Right, Landy?
Correct. How are you, Leslie?
Good. How are you? Do you like our second segment?
I do. I got lost because I was too busy making fun of everyone. So
The freaking
I
comments
lost
today.
track.
Yes, the comments. I actually wanted to go, and I have another screen over here that I'm kind of looking at the comments and they're popping up. The comments are freaking juicy today.
They are. There's some good burns in there.
They're really, really juicy. I need to look at David's. David, you know what? At this point, I'm just gonna go ahead and here, let me move you to the other side so I can look over there because I'm looking at you over here. But David, I think I'm gonna go ahead and relax on him for the rest of the night because we've been making fun of him, choking on water, and so I'm just not gonna make fun of him anymore for
Oh,
just
I
for
was going to make
tonight.
fun of him for having no power and still living in New York, and there's a lot. There's a lot of material there.
You know that I used to make a lot of excuses when I was younger. And one of my friends gifted me a snowman for Christmas with a little peace stain that said, "It's always something." I think that's my going to be my gift for David this year for Christmas. Because it's always something with him, right?
I guess, yeah. I mean, if he's not missing time because of cracking teeth on stuff or power is out or Ethereum's down, it's a mess. I don't know what's going on with him. Got to get him back on track. After buying that that specialty Iranian sleeper cell mattress that he's got, it's been all out of whack.
So, Landy, it's always something with him. Do you think that he might be an ops? Because where can you hide technology in your teeth, right? You can hide microphones, you can hide certain things in your teeth.
Hmm.
Haven't
Hmm.
we seen that storyline before? Because,
Convenient timing.
right, it's so convenient. Like lately, I think for the past month, right? So, my understanding, military assets were already moving to the Middle East, or, to the East, West, whatever, over a month ago. And then we became aware of it like a couple of weeks ago when the riots were happening, etc. So there's a lot of distractions. Isn't that kind of where David also started with his toothaches, going to the
Mm-hmm.
dentist? His teeth
Mm-hmm.
were cracked. He was trying to get them fixed. And then today, yesterday, we had the show. And then yesterday, did he go to the dentist again yesterday? And then all of
I
a
have no
sudden,
idea. I have no idea. I had a request to say, hey, you know what? Can you do the morning show? And I was like, sure, I can do it. We opened up late, and then like it was weird because like he came in to the show and then he came out almost like, oh no, I forgot to hit anonymous and go in the grease trap. It was weird. I felt like we were being monitored.
I think there's something off, right? And then he didn't have his live stream today. And the
Hmm.
crazy thing too, it's like David and I haven't talked in a few days. We always used to talk on the phone, and lately, like, we don't even get on the phone like we used to. And then today we briefly got on, and then he's like, "Hey, can I call you back?" But it was very like weird and mysterious. And I was like, "No, you don't have to call me back." I said, "Don't bother." And
Yeah,
never heard from him.
it's odd, and then powers out and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's a very convenient, very convenient.
And then conveniently, I started the new segment today, Conspiracy Unleashed.
And then all of a sudden you're freezing and all kinds of technical issues. Yeah, it's very odd. It's very odd.
And for some reason, like, he doesn't want to get me Starlink. Like, why can't we get Starlink? Like, if we're reporting news, if we're reporting all this stuff, we need Starlink. At least the
Yeah.
citizen journalist, or the wannabe citizen journalist that we are, and conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, he also asked me if I would fly to New York to vote in the mayoral election for the guy that's winning the primary now, and it's really weird. It's weird stuff.
Really?
Yeah. He's like, "Hey,
Huh.
I heard that you can pretty quickly make it to the East Coast. You want to come over here and vote for this guy?" And I was like,
Wait,
well, that's weird."
first of all, how does he know that you can make it pretty quickly to
Yeah,
the
that's what I
East?
was wondering as well. Like, how do you know this? How'd you obtain this information? This is not commonplace information. He knew exactly my location. He showed it to me on a GPS coordinates map. He had the actual coordinates of my location at that moment. It was very, very weird. Yeah.
That is very interesting, Landy. Landy, now let's tap into a little bit of the second segment that I just went over. Uh Conspiracy Unleashed, in regards to the training aviation that went out yesterday to Europe. What do you think of it?
It's look, training is routine, but you train because you're preparing for something, right? And often we will see that training missions or training might be the decoy for the real mission, right? So there's obviously some east versus west tension, considering that Russia and China have deep economic ties. Russia, of course, deeper economic ties to Iran, and specifically, Russia, has an agreement to help facilitate their nuclear program. China sponsoring them as well. They both China and Russia have, deals in place for their space agency, which is their missile defense and their missile offense programs. And, there's a lot of oil trade going on there as well. So there's vested interest there, right? And the United States just leveled their main nuclear facility in Fordo. So, there's a lot of contention around that, and all you have to do is look at the GPS, and you can see that the color of the actual geology after the these strikes there, which we now know there was 12 bombs that were dropped, and there's 6 holes that line up exactly, and even the outline of the facility schematics you can see on the ground in terms of implosions. And now they're saying that they moved nuclear material, and it's pretty clear that it's very difficult to move nuclear material without others knowing. So they're kind of floating around these pictures of these trucks that are going, but the trucks clearly don't have nuclear material in them. Looks like they're backfill, uh, probably to protect entrances and maybe even some fallout or something. Who knows? That's just
Do you think
speculation.
that that material was probably moved
No,
weeks
nope,
or a
no.
few
We would
days
have seen it.
prior to?
No, there's nothing that the intelligence agencies and the U.S. military. There's nothing that they can't see.
What
They
wait, but
we would
wait,
have
what if
known.
they did see and they have images, information, and the
It's
US is
possible.
using it, as intel, like, "Hey, we have this information, we know, etc.," and are using it as, talking points if they have that information.
Well, I mean, that's always possible, but it's very highly likely with the type of strike that was just done on that facility in particular, while the other facilities were being attacked by sub, um, that one, if they moved nuclear material, it was tracked. It was absolutely
Mhm.
tracked, right? It's a far more likely it's far more likely, I should say, that that nuclear material was still there in that facility. It's very clear that despite what the media is trying to float out there and Iran's trying to say about that particular facility, that when you look at and if you are if you I don't know if you fancy yourself as an open intel person, or if you've been in the military in some way, or some form, or form of intelligence, or even listening to those that have been, it's very clear that facility imploded, and you can see the outline. A lot of people thought it was like clouds or something. No, that's the implosion, and then the material that's ejected from that implosion. So that facility is most likely toast. Um, we've been tracking this since '06, since they started that facility, right? The US specifically has been on the ball with that. Now, of course, they did cop to it in about '09, I believe. So, it's we will never know as the public what's really going on, and we shouldn't, right? We shouldn't be announcing exactly what's going on for every step of the way so we can be front run at every moment, right?
Right.
Um, that's just not a good way to keep things in check when you let the adversary know your every move before you make that move. And
You can't.
yeah, it makes no sense, right? So unless you're going to do smoke screen operations, then of course then they're going to work all their intel sources to try to find out what you're really doing. There was no real leaks that we know of prior to this attack, right? Obviously
Mhm.
not public. So, what are we doing now, I guess, right? So, obviously, it's still a tense situation, right? There is a ceasefire in place now, and they're adhering to it at this particular moment. But that doesn't mean that it's going to maintain, right? I mean, Israel literally in the final hour before the ceasefire, they launched their largest attack, and then of course this continued shortly after the ceasefire was supposed to begin with, rocket from Iran that was shot down, and then Israel struck back again, and then Trump got pissed. We have the viral take from Trump on that, and then all of a sudden now they're okay. Israel says they're going to focus on Gaza again. So it's we don't know what's really happening. And I think personally, I think that as this was the first time that these particular weapons were used, that the success of this particular mission is proof of that particular concept and is likely having the East rethink the facilities that they have and have built. Because even there's been theories like, oh, they couldn't have hit it because it was at first it was like, oh, they only dropped 6. Well, it turns out it was 12. And you can see based on the trajectory of those holes in the sides of the mountain that they line up perfectly with the facility. The implosion and the ejected material line up perfectly with the known schematics of the facility. And you basically have the 3 initial shots on either side. So those 6 shots, 3 on one side, come to an apex. So when they were landing, they were coming to an apex underground, even though they had 3 different entry points on one side and then 3 different on the other. They all come to an apex, and then they drop 6 more, 3 and 3. That's devastating. That's devastating, and that's with what we know about these weapons, right? And that's not always the full story. There's the real conspiracy, because we have, we have ways of saying that, oh no, it's, it's about this powerful and this is what we know. We show it off there to the public, and it's like, okay, but things can often be misrepresented as being less powerful while you have something that's more powerful as well. As for what's going on with some of this stuff that was happening during the NATO visit, you gotta have your head on a swivel. This was a pretty big operation that proved a lot in the grand scheme of things. So it
So, what
kind
do
of
you think
changes.
of Israel coming to the NATO, even though that they're not part of that treaty, and then Iran backing out of it?
Well, I mean, that's kind of expected, right? Considering the tension, and um, I'd venture to say that there's a lot more happening behind the scenes than we have any idea of. Um, I thought it was interesting that considering what you just mentioned, that you know, they had interviewed Trump on the plane on the way out to NATO, right?
Mhm.
And he had mentioned that he had spoken to Vladimir Putin. He said, I guess Putin had said, "Do you need any help with this particular situation?" He said, "No, I don't need help with this. I need help with you." So that's pretty interesting. And I think that there's some things that may have changed, and who knows what's really going to happen from here. We've got a lot of moving parts all at the same time. When you think about the EMP capabilities, when you think about the bombing capabilities of not just the United States but other countries.
Okay, so let me back up a little bit. You just mentioned EMP, which, for the people that don't know, it's electromagnetic pulse.
Mhm.
It's not your typical weapon, and there's no explosion, no fire, no sirens, just silence, and then everything frickin' stops. Which, in doing research, my understanding is that China, Russia, possibly Iran have explored EMP capabilities for years. And if they decide to utilize it, it can wipe America's grid.
No.
What do you
I
think of
mean,
that?
is it a risk? Obviously, yeah, but they don't have anything that we don't know about, and I would go out on a safe limb and say that we are light years ahead of them. I don't I
But does it
look.
I mean, do they have the capability of doing that to our
Sure.
infrastructure here in
If they
America?
could get here, good luck. Have fun.
So this is
Good luck
not something
trying.
that we're literally okay, because we've mentioned it already a couple of times in the lives. We mentioned it in spaces, and one of the things that we see a lot, and I think we're gonna get this. This is normal, right? The more research we are, the more vocal we are. People saying that we're fear mongering, but it's not fear mongering. It's reality of what's happening. And the thing is that they've put it in front of us years after years after years. Like, I asked my kids yesterday about EMP. Did you know what it is? And they're like, Mom, are you kidding? And they went off on a tangent, and they're like, did you know it was even included in the Call of Duty game? And I was like, what do you mean? in the Call of Duty. Yeah, if you had so many kills strike, then you were able to get this package, and it was an EMP
Well,
package, and blah blah blah. So it's like,
think about the logistics though. To get an EMP over here in US airspace and set it off at a level that would damage infrastructure to the level that would be needed,
mhm.
from a logistical point of view, doesn't make any sense. It's more, what makes more sense is cyber warfare to take down systems. And let's not forget about the Starlink that you need, right?
I mean,
Like,
but what's not to say that it's not already in here? I mean, we did have a lot of illegals. We had a lot of people that even came in here legally, visas expired, etc. A lot of Iranian, Chinese. I mean, do we even know
sure.
we have Russians in here?
Look,
So what if that
we
system was
do.
being
We
built
we know. Look, the
within?
the the intel apparatus in the United States and the United States allies is very, very capable, and I am fairly confident that it'd be very difficult to smuggle something that would damage infrastructure to that point. Because even if you were able to smuggle one in, you're not going to be able to smuggle one in that's going to damage the infrastructure of the entire United States. It's just too big, right? It's too big. Logistically, it doesn't make any sense. Maybe locally, within, if you can get it close enough to a backbone or something like that. But that's just, it's a little bit too unrealistic at this point. Well, it is a risk on a more local and regional scale. It is far less of a risk to the entirety of the United States infrastructure, because we have redundant infrastructure throughout, not just the military, but also in the public. And we have even more redundant infrastructure with everything that Elon's been firing up into space. And that would be all of the Starlink stuff. So, we have an outsized advantage in this area. And I'd venture to guess or bet that DARPA has some real nasty shit cooked up that could absolutely not only mitigate this, but strike back in ways that I don't think they could
What if DARPA
possibly
is
imagine.
infiltrated at this point? I mean, and why I'm saying that is because things are happening right in front of our face. Like right now with New York City, what's happening there? It's like we never thought that was going to happen, and it's happening
Oh,
in our own country.
it was kind of a predictable path when you consider the population center there at this point and how that demographic has changed and the tactics used to get that particular person in that position, right? It's
Mhm.
not, it was never out of the realm of possibility. I'm sure that that's going to be heavily looked at as well, right? This is, look, the guy is a known communist, by the way, and he's, if you, within 5 years, if it comes to light that you have some sort of an affiliation with like the Communist Party or communist ideals, good luck, because you might get elected, but you won't make it, because that can get you out of the country before you even get into office. Doesn't matter if you're a naturalized citizen or not. It's within 5 years of being a naturalized citizen. If you find out that you're a radical, look, there's ways to mitigate. I'm not saying that that's the way that it should be done. Um, Beat the idea at the voting box first, and then kick his ass out. Like,
No, absolutely. Landy, we're going to go to a quick commercial and we will be
sure.
right back. And I want to pedal back on the US grid because I have a question for you and another theory. So we will be right back.
The world. Taking my time to perfect the beat, and I still got love for the streets. Don't represent for the gangsters all across the world. Hitting the corners in the logo, girl. Taking my time to perfect the beat, and I still got love for the streets. I'm representing for the gangsters all across the world. Hitting the corners in the logo, girl. Taking my time to perfect the beat, and I still got love for the streets.
Love Hoppy. He's representing for the gangsters all around the world. Welcome back to the nightly recap, sponsored by Hoppy, powered by GNN. For this segment, I do have Langley, tongue twister, Langley Landy on Conspiracy Unleashed. Landy, we were talking about EMP, the new possibly mayor of NYC, and EMP. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because we were talking about, EMP attack or a possible attack, and then you were explaining, how the possibility of one happening. Now, my understanding is that Canada and US grid, they have interconnectivity, or they're interconnect, right? So Canada just discovered, how many Iranians did they arrest or that were there illegally? I don't recall the number,
I
but
don't
I
remember,
saw
but
that
it
on
was
the
a
news.
lot.
It was, and I didn't even write it down. I should have written it down. But they discovered a shitload of Iranians in their country.
Well,
So,
we picked up 121, so that's
yes.
separate.
So we already know that there's some in Canada, there's some in the United States, but how we don't even know if there's some in Mexico. So if they are preparing for an attack, especially with our grid, they have the possibility, if they attack through Canada, they have the possibility to impact our north, right? Northeast, upper Midwest, whatever. So that would consist of New York, Michigan, Washington State, those areas. But what if they also have the possibility to also do it within the United States and possibly the South and Mexico? Because as of where we are right now, we don't even know if there are some in Mexico. I mean, I'm pretty sure there is. I can guarantee you there is.
I sure there could be, but I'm going to tell you right now. Good luck. Good luck. Go ahead, try it. It's not going to work. It's just not. That particular. You can try. You're only going to temporarily take things down locally, maybe regionally for a little while, and that's it.
Do you think that right now, with everything that is happening, especially with the United States repositioning some of its pawns to take over the world dominance, something is going to happen? Maybe we might go off grid temporarily, but it's going to be staged so they can go ahead and full blown implement the world reset
No, I don't. I personally don't
with
think
the
so.
financial digital that we're moving
No,
towards.
no, we're already
No,
we're already moving towards it. Why would you need to do it? Why would you need to
because
take down the
normies,
country?
yeah, like normies don't really understand
They don't
anything
have to.
about, no, they don't. And I'm going to tell you why they don't. I live over here, very small town. And, I do travel all around town and I ask questions because I'm very inquisitive. And people answer me, do you know how many people down here know nothing about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, digital systems, stable coins? I mean, the whole town, probably about 90+% has no idea about that.
Well, yeah, and they're not even gonna know it as they're using it. That's the point, right? Like, it's just gonna be everywhere. You don't have to
Ye
have
Like a
some sort of
digital
shutdown.
like when they remember when they first introduced credit cards back in the
Yeah.
70s or so, it was, and then they used the first transaction, what was it, at Burger King, Wendy's, and they were so excited about it, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
I mean, you don't think that they might do a massive implementation of that way? Hey,
I mean,
Jules, ¿qué
that's
pasa?
that's exactly what we're seeing, right? We're already seeing that. Like, look at the Genius Act. Look at the banks being able to handle crypto. Like, it's already happening. There is no, like, you don't need to stop. You don't need to have an event. It's just gonna be a slow roll. We're just gonna slow roll right into it. And everyone will one day the normies wake up and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go over here and wait, I don't understand. Why do I have a USDC balance? Why do I have so on and so forth?" Like they're oh, what do you mean? When they go to buy a new home and then the mortgage officer says, do you have any crypto assets to declare as we can count that towards, they're not gonna it's just gonna happen. They'll be like, "Oh, wait, I didn't know you could do that." And then they'll be like, "Oh, check your brokerage account. You probably have stable coins, the US dollar stable coins." And then explain that to them what that is. They're already gonna have it. Like, it's they won't even need to understand what it is. It's just gonna be there. Just like people don't understand how credit cards work
I
and
wonder how they're
work.
gonna word the crypto assets because when you're doing mortgage loans and things like that, I don't know if it's changed, but I know I was doing mortgage loans like about a year and a half ago, and we couldn't lead the
Mhm.
witness. We couldn't ask them, hey, we couldn't be specific, like, oh, do you have this? Do you have that? Blah, blah, blah. You had to just say, okay, do you have additional assets, like any type of. So I
Yeah, I
wonder,
mean,
they have to
now
change the verbiage.
yeah, well, I mean, now with what they've, with Fannie and Freddie getting involved, banks being able to hold crypto, and facilitate transactions now as well. So when you go and like get a mortgage, that's going to be probably the first introduction to it, and it's probably going to happen this year. By the end of the year, you'll start seeing, on mortgage applications, declaration of assets and crypto. It's gonna
That's
happen.
demonic, Jules. Look, Jules put, hola, Joel, ¿cómo está? No, that's stable coins and the patent that Bill Gates has that ends in 666. Telling you. It's all prophecy.
Which patent is he referring to? Because the Genius Act has nothing to do with that.
Let me see. Let's research. Jules, what patent? Bill Gates. Let me see if I can find something really quick.
So yeah, they'll work it into the T's and C's. Yes, he has a patent that ends in 666, but that's I don't think that's relevant to what we're talking about. Um yeah, so Tammy had mentioned, they'll just work it into the T's and C's, terms and conditions, and then there'll be a section for it in the app during the application process. Yeah, exactly. That's all. It's just a paperwork thing at this point, and
It's
then you get to
about
declare.
cryptocurrency system using body activity data. Oh my god!
Oh,
Now I'm gonna
maybe
go down.
he might have been replying to somebody in the comments then. Yeah. So, um,
Oh my god! Look,
all
this
the
is what
okay,
I.
he's replying to all the tech. He's replying to another comment, I think, about all the tech is how they'll introduce you to the mark, otherwise known
The
as the
mark
mark
of
of the
the
beast.
beast.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Well, that's
Which I
definitely
was.
up
You know
up Bill
what?
Gates'
I went
alley.
down a rabbit hole today on TikTok too. I'm gonna Bibles where you can get all the information. And I saw something on TikTok where there is a book, 18, I think it was 1800s, or I don't know if it was 1980s before they made like major changes. And it talks something about how they're going to install um, or you, and you're gonna go to hell basically. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys the way I interpret it. Guys, I can't memorize this stuff. It's so much information, but the way that I interpret it, if you get the mark of the beast, you're gonna go to hell. The mark of the beast in the previous versions, it says in your right hand, and then on the newer versions, it says on your right hand. I also believe in the mark of the beast, so I rather go hungry and die of starvation before I get it. But what Jules is talking about, this is very interesting. You know what? This is going to be my
Mhm.
conspiracy. Maybe we can talk a little bit about this on Friday for this segment. But what he was talking about is the mic. Jules, correct me if I'm wrong. If this is the one that you're talking about, Microsoft and Bill Gates have a patent application. This patent application is about cryptocurrency system using activity data. So, important things to note about this patent and related claims. It's a real patent application. It was filed in 2019 and published in March 2020. It does not mention implemented microchips. Claims that it involves inserting chips to monitor activity for cryptocurrency rewards are false. The patent discusses using wearable technology like smartwatch to track body activity. The patent describes a system where a server provides a task to user's device. A sensor part of connected to device senses the user's body activity while performing the task. The body activity data, brain waves, body heat, pulse rate is used to verify the task completion. If the activity data is verified, cryptocurrency is awarded to the user. So this is good because this is a conspiracy one. It's a conspiracy theory. So I'm reading a lot about it. So I'm not going to talk about it any longer, Landy. so I can dig into conspiracy theory, and then we can touch on it a little bit on Friday with Hotep, and then see how crazy and wild Hotep goes about this, because he likes those type of conspiracy theories.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
Jules, now Jules is serious. Jules, you should come and talk about this with us one day if you like this kind of stuff, because now he's talking in low caps. I guess when he talks in low caps, he's serious. Correct. You will not be able to buy or sell anything without the mark of the beast. That is correct, Jules. I grew up on that stuff and I completely believe it. One of my favorite books in the Bible is Revelations. I love reading that book in the Bible, Revelations. To me, if you read it and you're able to interpret with certain things that are happening right now, it is a lot of what is in that book is coming into fruition, whether you want to believe it or not. Believe in whatever you want to believe in, but it's coming into fruition. It's very
well,
scary.
the thing about a lot of that, if I'm remembering the patent correctly, I think I know which one this is. It is, I believe, it has to do with measuring the biometric data. The and the way that they had to patent it was through your electrical impulses that your body naturally has. And everyone has like a specific signature and stuff like that. So, how specific and how implementable that patent is, it remains to be seen. But there's definitely, Bill Gates definitely falls on the weird cult, demonic cult side of things.
He does.
Um, so, like anything that he touches, including Microsoft Windows, the most ubiquitous operating system on the planet, is really kind of shitty. We're already there, right? Um, but it's, you take the good with the bad, right? And if you can morph what might have been created for something bad into something good, then you can change the course of history and the outcome.
Oh my goodness gracious. I'm looking, I am literally going down a rabbit hole right now. I'm asking AI about any current actual microchip implants. It's giving me like this whole information. There's one US 2009. It's a tooth located GPS person tracking and location method and apparatus, which we kind of already knew that possibly existed, right? Based on movies and shit and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Other patents on implemented microchips, a GPS enabled implantable microchip designed for pets. Watch, yeah, because microchip.
Well, it's definitely, it's an evolution of known technology applied to humans for a specific purpose, right? And any advancement of that technology, they also aren't going to completely put in the patent. They're going to patent the things that they know aren't patented yet. Um, and there's a lot of kind of scary futuristic Blade Runner-y stuff that's on the horizon, and it's not just from Bill Gates, although highest profile weirdo out there doing some of this stuff. But remember, a lot of people love Elon, and he's putting chips in people's heads, and they're going to get smaller and more efficient and more accessible to not just people who have, who are quadriplegic, and it's going to keep extending, right? That's going to extend outward to more and more groups of people.
So, Joel said that Motorola has one the size of a grain of rice. After a bunch of testing, they found the optimal installation location is on the forehead. One I did see one that some women were installing it like on their wrist and their palm, and I don't know what the capabilities. This was a couple of years ago, but she was showing it in a video where she could scan, her door and stuff, and it would open instead of having her, instead of she having to punch in the code to her house and stuff like that, that's how she was getting in.
Yeah, I mean, the tech has been available for a while. It's just getting smaller, more power efficient, or can be passively powered by you. There's a lot of like crazy, weird tech that's starting to make its way out there, and I think that it's inevitable that it will be adopted by people. Whether it happens in the United States first or not doesn't really matter. This kind of stuff will be adopted by the human race. This is just a fact. We're going to keep accelerating towards, whatever people feel is going to make their lives easier in the short term, not understanding what some of those long term implications might be. So, I mean, and that if you want to get into EMPs, there you go. If you got a chip and you want to fry somebody, you can EMP them, right? Like we see this in our movies and media all the time, right? You can get some Cyberpunk 2077 video game footage up in here, and you can take a look at how they envision the future. And it's usually pretty accurate because it's usually based with some kernel of reality as the source and just trying to imagine what it looks like in the future. So, yeah, I mean, it's probably going to get dystopian, but we have control over that. We
Yeah.
have control over that. And it's about the checks and balances because it's coming either way. And where do you want to be and which side do you want to be on? And that's,
Yeah.
this all ties together, like the East versus West stuff, the trade wars, the monetary systems. Yeah, it's all tied together. And the future of the human race, some people don't want a very bright future for the human race. I think the bill kind of falls on that side. I mean, the
They
dude
do
wants to block out the
not.
sun. He wants to block out the sun. Now, I
So he
think it's
wants
for
to
another
live in
reason.
darkness.
No, he wants to block out the sun, of course, under the guise of what is it? Under the guise of climate change and stuff like that, right? But if I think that they know that a big solar flare is coming our way, and that could potentially change the course of human history. And he wants to get ahead of it, block out the sun, so at least him and some of the elites around him can survive. Because what he's proposed could, in theory, be an effective measure to prevent at least local damage via that might occur because of a solar flare event. And apparently, we're supposed to get one and like all that stuff. So yeah, you can go down that rabbit hole. That's a deep rabbit hole. But that's my theory. I think it has nothing to do with quote unquote climate change.
You
We know
never
that
know, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, we know the Earth is in a global cooling period, and we understand we have more context for where the CO2 levels were in history and what life was here and what it wasn't versus now, and the intrinsic path or trends. I think they're concerned about something that is well outside of our control, but they're using something that they can make us feel like we can control as the carrot.
No, absolutely. Landy, we are at top of the hour. Thank you so much for joining me on this second segment of the show on the nightly recap, Conspiracies Unleashed, where it's like we talk about everything and anything that we may think it's a conspiracy theory. To some, it might be a reality. It might be a reality to us or to you. We never know, right, Landy? We just shoot the shit.
Yep.
Say it.
Well, thanks, Leslie.
Everyone, have a great night. And remember, you believe everything, you don't believe everything. I don't know what to tell you. You believe whatever you want to believe, but if you really want a book for knowledge or information or education, read the Bible. It might tell you some things here and there. If not, read whatever the hell you want to read. Pero, good night, everybody. Take care. Don't let the bed bugs bite, and don't do anything Landy and I wouldn't do. And we do a lot of things, right, Landy?
Yep.
Good night, everybody. This is the nightly recap sponsored by Hoppy, powered by GNN. I am Leslie Mota, and this is Langley Landy. Have a fabulous evening. Bye bye. Peace.